So the topic name is the clinical trial history. What is meant by the clinical trial history and what is the history behind it? First of all, starting with some Aldous Huxley theories or his statements. First of all, the charm of a history and its enigmatic lessons consist in the fact that from the age to age nothing changes, and yet everything is completely different. Everything is completely different than the actual history. First of all, the king Nebuchadnezzar II, a military leader 605 to 562 before Christian, the Old Testaments bearing a reference to water and bread versus the bread and wine, legumes and water. Then the father of clinical research. The father of clinical research is known as the James Litt, a surgeon, 1660 to 1694. The first controlled clinical trial of a modern era experiment on scurvy. Then Lind selected the 12 men from the ship. First man, a quart of cider a day. Second, 25 drops of elixir vitriol 3 times a day. Third, 2 spoonfuls of vinegar 3 times a day. Fourth, a course of sea water. Fifth, to manage, and one lesson gives them every day and electually remanded by the hospital surgeon. 4 out of the 6 group reported no changes. Men gives the cider reported only a slight improvement. Seamen fed citrus fruits experienced the remarkable recovery. Lind had definitively established the superiority of citrus fruits above all over the remedies. Treatise of the Scurvy, published in 1753. Then the placebo. What is the placebo? Second is the cornerstone. First appeared in the medical literature in the early 1800s. Included in the Hooper's Medical Dictionaries of 1811, defined it is a epithet given to any medicinal more to please the benefits the patients. In 1863, the Dr. Austin Flint conducted the first experiment on comparing of a dummy remedy with a already existing remedy. Dr. Flint treated 13 patients suffering from the rheumatism with herbal extract, a highly diluted tincture or a quassia. He concluded that there were no significant differences in the results when he compared the placebo with active treatments. Then the treatise on the principles and practices of medicines is published in 1886. U.S. Pharmacopoeia. The USP was established in 1820. The USP created a system of standard, a system of quality control, and a national formulary. Then 1902, the Biologics Control Act. In 1901, the contaminated smallpox vaccines and diphtheria antitoxins led to the tetanus outbreaks and the death of several children. For first time, pre-market approval for every biological drug. 1906, Pure Food and Drug Act. The 1906 law included the provision against the misbranding. The basis of a law rested on the regulations of a product labeling rather than pre-market approval. Then the next topic, that is the syphilis study of the Tuskegee, 1932 to 1972. The 1932, the U.S. Public Health Service began as the investigations into the natural history of its dread diseases. Location chosen for the study is the Tuskegee, Macon country, in Alabama, a place that had the highest syphilis prevalences in the country. 1937, the sulfa craze. 1937, the elixir sulfonamide test of the raspberries, test of a death. Sulfonamides is a first systemic antibiotic. Sulfonamide pill used to treat the streptococcal infections. The elixir sulfonamide diester of 1937 was one of the most consequential mass poisoning of the 20th century. During the September and October 1937, the drug was responsible for the more than the 100 peoples in a 15 US states. Then the 1938 Food, Drug and Cosmetic Acts. The sulfa craze led to the passage of a 1938 Food, Drug and Cosmetic Act. Law change the drug focuses on the Food and Drug Administrations from that of the policing agencies, primarily concerned with the confiscations of adulterated drug, to the regulatory agencies, increasingly involved with overseeing the evaluations of a new drug. Historical perspective. The first double controls trial took place in 1943 and 44 for the evaluations of the patulin in the treatment of common cold. The first randomizations was introduced in 1923. The first randomization controlled trial was carried out in 1946 by the Medical Research Council. 1946 Nuremberg trial. In the Nuremberg doctors' trial, 15 to 23 doctors found the guilty in 1947, hung of the crimes against the humanity, experiments against the studies of the twin studies, freezing responses, malaria experiments, mustard gas experiment, sulfonamide experiment, seawater experiment, sterilization experiments. 1947 The Nuremberg Code, voluntary consent in the essentials. Subjects have the right to end their participations in the research. Research risk must be minimized and relevated in the anticipated benefits of the research. National Research Act 1974. The act came into being after the Tuskegee study in which black men with a syphilis were denied life-saving treatment, led to the creations of national commissions for the protection of human subject of biomedical and behavioral research. Purpose was to establish commissions to identify basic ethical principles to be followed with conducting the biomedical and the behavioral research on the human subject. The IRB. The term was introduced in 1974 in the 1981 US regulations IRB approval for all drugs of a product regulated by the FDA. The prerequisites set forth by the FDA, that is, risk to participant are minimized, risk are reasonable in relations to be anticipated benefits, relations of a study, participates in the equitable, informed consent obtained appropriately, etc. So the today's topic is covered.